Jacqui, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. You are looking very relaxed there, which is a a good way to see. Some of our guests have looked a little stressed and harassed so far in this sort of lockdown, but you're looking like you're handling it well.
Yeah, I am. I'm doing well. I'm in the country, so I escaped the city, so dealing with lockdown in the country at the moment. But the homeschooling has been a bit of a challenge, but luckily I'm sort of divorced, so I'm actually on my kid week off.
How old are the kids?
I've got nearly 15-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son.
Yeah, I have 13 and 11, 13-year-old daughter, 11-year-old son. And I'll tell you, even though I'm on my own in this studio, it's actually quite nice to be on my own for the first time in some time and not have a problem with the computer or some child scream at me about providing some sort of more food for them or whatever it be. So
yeah,
I know the pain.
You can't be on food duty, or mum, I can't print, or mum, I need this.
I know. I actually asked my daughter for a tip the other day. I'd been up there that many times with that many different plates of food. I said, you wouldn't mind a tip at the end of the day. But let's talk about, before we get on to you, let's talk about a little bit of advice intelligence to sort of frame. So why don't you tell our audience about the current business and what it is and where it's at from a business life cycle?
Yeah. So Advice Intelligence is a fintech company. What we are is a financial planning technology platform. We're not in the traditional sense of financial planning. We're really transforming financial planning into something that's digital, interactive, can be done live in front of a client, and then the actual client can have their own app that's tracking to their life aspirations and goals, all the strategies, their cash flow, all their investments, all of that is tracking to a digital financial plan that's app-based. So we're really transforming the whole financial services industry into this next decade of digital financial advice. Traditionally, if you saw a financial advisor, you go, you have a conversation, they whiteboard a whole bunch of complex jargon that most people don't even can even make sense of.
Yep.
And then they give them an 80-page document and say, here's your financial plan. And then it's, most people don't read it, goes into a drawer. They don't ever look at it again.
Yep.
And so we wanted to transform that into something that's live and with them and digital and smarter than a 105 BC technology, which is paper. So we're transforming financial advice into something that's much more interactive.
Which is awesome. And I remember when we first spoke, which was probably about a year ago, I was like, oh, this is what I need, because I am one of those people. I have numerous financial plans in the bottom drawer. I really should throw them out. And the ones that I have implemented, I've signed away waivers to say that it's not their fault if it doesn't work, and then implemented something I didn't understand. So, look, it's very much needed. And where's the business up to? Have you launched yet? Is the app out there? Whereabouts are you?
Yeah, so we recently launched. So we've spent the last 5 years building the technology because it's a very, very complex platform. So my team have had a very massive challenge to take my vision and turn that into maths and code. So I've got a team of actuaries, very intelligent software engineers behind the technology platform. So the business is basically launched sort of 8 months ago. We've still got a lot of features that we're building as part of that. But it's basically been 5 years in the making. It's, had significant investment into it. We're on a journey to really transform financial advice. And it's going to take a few more years, especially as we move into the realm of machine learning and apply machine learning to the industry. But we're on that journey, and it's going to take a few years before we get there.
Yeah, it's a hell of a case for perseverance and resilience. 5 years pre-launch, it's not just been you doing it on the side while you're doing other jobs. That's been full on working away. It's incredible. I think I remember when you told me that the first time, I was like, wow, that's a long time to build something before you launch it. It's an incredible. Did you find that would have been a little bit of a challenge with some people? I would have thought that they're kind of building something that's not live for such a long period of time. It must be amazing to have now launched.
Yeah. I mean, from even the market perspective of the length of time it's taken us to get out there, because the financial advisors and the industry have been desperate for new technology that was going to help them to create more sustainable businesses, because they've been hit with a Royal Commission.
Yep.
We've had the cost of advice increase drastically because of compliance. Their ability to lower their cost to serve advice and their ability to be far more efficient and deliver a better customer experience. Because the customer experience around financial advice is pretty poor. It's, there's nothing digital that's really supporting an advisor and helping them do their job. So, 5 years is a long time, and a long time for people to wait for, technology. And the market has been, we've had a lot of credibility issues around that. That has, been a bit of a challenge, but we've had to overcome that, and we've delivered now. So we've proven the technology, because it's a lot of trial and error. You're doing a lot of prototyping. You're building something that's never been built anywhere in the world. And Australia is a perfect market because we have such complex tax and superannuation law. So we were able to, use this market as, a very complex market for us to take this offshore in the future. So, and also our industry is much more mature from a regulatory perspective, because we've had so much fiduciary duty around the industry. So we've had to adapt the technology for that, and make it sure it's compliant, and that's all built in and, behind the customer experience, all that compliance aspects. So, it's been a huge undertaking and it's had a lot of challenges. It's certainly, from the funding perspective, has been a challenge, because it was self-funded by myself and my business partner.
Yep.
And we've invested 40 mil into the company. So it's been quite a big
it's a lot of money.
commitment from both of us. And now we're in a place now where we've now got one of the biggest investment managers in the country now behind us, to help us to scale the business and continue to grow and redefine an industry.
Now, that brings me perfectly to my next question, so thank you for that. So I guess what I want to touch on now is yourself. I guess it's always fascinating to know the founders' stories, where they came from. And I don't think you and I have ever really talked about this, because we've always been too busy talking about your growth and what we're looking for. So I'm really excited to know. I'm intrigued to know your story, where you came from and what compelled you enough to want to invest, significant amounts of money and time in doing this. Where did that desire come from, and what were you up to beforehand?
So I was running a wealth management firm. So I did that for 10 years. And prior to that, I was in telco and technology.
Yep.
So I wanted, having that technology background and kind of falling into running a, investment wealth management firm, I kind of saw that this industry lacked a lot of innovation around technology. So I kind of embarked on, getting out of wealth management and into the technology aspect. And I had this vision around how I wanted to redefine the technology that I used within my business, and I wanted to create that for others. So I basically took a big risk and a big step out of that financial firm and into, starting up my own tech company.
Yeah.
So that was quite a big step. And also personally, I was going through a, hell divorce and having 2 young children. So that was quite an emotionally and, hard time, as well as, a lot of financial pressure as well, because I was committing a lot to this.
Yeah.
That sort of start was, it was challenging. And then, sorry, I've just lost my train of thought.
No, that's all right. Look, you sound like a lot of founders. You sound typically, it's interesting. I noticed this, there's a real trend when you get founders, they always take on so much at the same time. It's no one ever does it. You know what? I just come out of something. I have plenty of money and I was pretty relaxed. I didn't really know what to do, so I thought I'd have a crack at it. No, there's always this going on and this going on, and there was financial pressure here and there was this. So I decided I'd start a business. It always seems it seems to be the trait of the founder. It's quite fascinating. I mean, You've been going now for sort of 4 or 5 years. Tell me, what's been the hardest thing for you so far? What's been the biggest challenge for you so far?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge has been around being a female. I mean, I'm in an industry that's male dominated. I'm
Yep.
in an industry that's financial services, which is mainly run by males,
Yep.
and also technology. So if you look at women founders of technology companies, there's only 14% of CEOs that are women in the US. That's 2% in Australia, which is pretty bad.
Terrible.
And then if you look at the VC world, 95% are male running VC
Yep.
funds, and same with private equity. 90% are run by males. So if you then look at the actual amount of funds that go into women founders, it's less than 2.3% globally.
Which is crazy.
Of women founders actually getting investment. So that's pretty bad. So if you look at then, myself being a woman founder and then getting investment, that's like statistically a 0.001% chance of someone actually getting funding for their vision as a founder and starting their business. So it's pretty challenging just being a female.
Well, and your business is technology and finance, right? Whereas a lot of the female founders I know, that it's often an e-commerce site. There seems to be quite a lot of female e-commerce. I don't know any other female founders in fintech, and we deal with a lot of fintechs, and I'm just trying to think through them now through my head, and I can't think of any. So yeah, you really did set the path for yourself to have some challenges ahead. But yeah, here you are, right? Here you are, launched.
Absolutely. And we're a female-led. Like my CTO is female,
yes,
and my head of operations is female. So the three of us are females running, probably the only female-led fintech, pretty much in the world.
I reckon you might well be. And I remember that when we first met as well. I was like, oh gosh, it's all women. That's unusual, because that is unusual. But yeah, look at what you're achieving. So how exciting is that in itself? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really proud of
it. You have succeeded in terms of those challenges we just talked about. What do you think was the biggest learning of that? If there's other female founders out there who are sitting there thinking, I want to start a fintech, but I'm not going to for whatever reason. You've been through this, and as you said, it's been a big challenge. What's been your biggest learning out of doing that maybe you could pass on to someone else who might want to do that? It doesn't have to be a female founder, but that I think would be a really good topic.
Yeah, I think being very much personally aligned to what it is your higher purpose is, because I think all of us have a higher purpose in life, and I think being aligned to that helps, that to flow. I think naivety has certainly played a big role in the unknowns of not knowing. I thought, we would have built this in 2, maybe 3 years, but I didn't think it was going to be a 5-year, time frame. So naivety definitely played its role in the journey. But yeah, I think being really aligned to, what it is personally you want to achieve in life, and, not being scared of, putting yourself out there and having a big vision and backing yourself and never giving up, because I never gave up once. Well, I've had my moments.
We all do.
Where you have, it's quite an emotional roller coaster. It's like, the markets, you're up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and you've just got to continue to pick yourself up and keep going. So, yeah, I say just do it.
Yeah, look, I think you probably hit the nail on the head. I've obviously had 3 businesses now, and the only way to succeed is to not stop. But yeah, the ups and downs are insane. And what's really puzzled me, because I've now been doing this for about 18 years in terms of running my own companies, it never gets any easier. And I'm sure things in life are supposed to get easier as you get better, but it doesn't seem to. So I think you've got to go into it with your eyes open and understand it's probably not going to get easier. So you might as well get used to the ups and downs right now, because they're not going away anytime soon.
Exactly. Each stage you're just, faced with new challenges or new things that you have to deal with, and you're constantly problem solving, and they
get bigger. In fact,
remain dynamic. And
I found that the ups and downs get bigger, even almost, because the problems get bigger. Although maybe I don't think you get used to them. And I guess how many staff are you now? I know we've recruited quite a few for you in the last sort of year, but how many are you now?
So we're 45 now.
Yep.
So we'll continue to grow. Our biggest challenge actually at the moment is finding people, as you know.
As I well know.
So, and finding really good software engineers that,
that's definitely the hardest.
My head of development's tests, none of them ever pass.
Yeah, well, I remember when you briefed me on that role, you said, "Oh, no one ever passes this test." I'm like, well, that doesn't sound like a great test. And I think, and obviously Carly manages your account, and I think she really loves working with you guys. She's doing a really good job, but she said, no one ever passed the test. I said, I know.
I know we hire the best of the best. And so, we need very smart engineers in our business because we have such complex subject matter, which is finance and, complex financial modeling and code. Yeah. So it's quite unique.
So let's talk about that growth, because you have grown quite a lot this year and you're continuing to grow and there's still quite a few roles. We've had 2 lockdowns during this period. You've obviously, as you mentioned, you've got an office in the city that's completely empty. How have you found maintaining the culture? And also, because I'm sure you have hired some people during this lockdown or onboarded. How have you, how have you dealt with that? Because it's quite difficult, I think, I ask everybody this at the moment, and no one has a golden bullet in terms of an answer. How have you dealt with onboarding people and hiring people that you potentially haven't actually really met?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a bunch of people I still haven't met personally. Yep. Even the last lockdown, it was funny because my head of onboarding, when I hired her and met her for the first time when she came into the office after we were, let out of the last lockdown, she walked into the office and she was like 6'2", and I was thinking that she was like 5'5". That was just even the physical appearance. It was like, oh my God, you're so tall. So yeah, it has been challenging because you like to, feel the energy of someone and, be in the same room with someone, but we've had to just, do it all over Zoom and Teams and we've just had to deal with it. But yeah, it's hard in terms of the training aspect. I mean, yes, we're in the cloud, everything's virtual. We run everything off Slack. So we're quite collaborative, as, a team, but it's really has been challenging in onboarding people and getting them trained up and not, being able to sit with them face to face and, help them sort of understand, their role. It has been challenging, but we've had to deal with it and get through it.
Yeah, look, I have to say I love Slack. I think Slack, we've got quite a geographically diverse team, and Slack, when we first brought it in, I was like, is this really going to work? How is it different to just texting or messaging or even Teams or anything? But I don't know. There's something about it. It just works really, really well, and people seem super comfortable using it. And I think it's a great tool, Slack.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Now, you're down in the country at the moment, as you mentioned. You haven't been the whole time, but is there anything that you are now doing that you perhaps weren't doing before, like a new habit or something that's perhaps has come out of lockdown? Or is there any, and this is always an interesting one, is there any belief that you have that has changed since the pandemic came along? Because I know it has fundamentally changed the way job seekers are going about looking for their jobs and what's important to them. We see that across the board. The questions people ask us at the beginning of when we meet them now are very different to what they were 2 years ago. It's far more about having an impact. It's far more about meaning and things like that, which people weren't as sort of attuned into before. What outside of work, how's it is there anything there that's changed for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's more balance, I think. I mean, getting up in the morning, it's not that frantic. Got to get into the city, drop kids off at school. It's just, that has, really calmed down. I do enjoy that aspect of not having to just be in this, complete craziness. Yep. Also, I'm a show jumper, so I've actually been able to do a lot more with horses and my training and show jumping, but I haven't been able to compete because all the shows are closed. But but yeah, I've had a lot more balance in my life personally, and more time to sort of reflect and not be in the craziness of Sydney of just being on all the time. I've just been able to just step back a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. Recovery. I think everyone's felt that we don't live far away from the city, but we're kind of a little bit more, it feels a bit cut off being at home. And I found there's a lot more balance. But there are days where I also miss the craziness. There are days where I find my motivation isn't as high as it was because there's no craziness. Sometimes you need the craziness to get you going. But I think overall, it's a definitely there's a lot of healthier parts to it, even though there's a lot of obviously issues around mental health and things like that. But I agree. I think it's got a lot more balance, particularly when you've got kids, I think, because you're spending, I think any founder we've spoken to on this show has said if they've got kids, you're spending so much more time as a family, which you didn't do before because kids are so busy these days. So it's been interesting.
They are. Especially the teenagers. Oh, my daughter is
I know.
so social. It's like, oh my God, she's had to really step back and, and being in the country, she doesn't love the country, but she's had to just deal with it.
Well, I like the fact that now when I drive them, at least it's not far. It can't be further than 5K. So if I am driving them somewhere, it's not, miles anymore. So there's a lot less driving going on. That's good.
Yeah, totally.
Now, one of the questions that if I forget to ask, we often get comments when we release it, and it's about, and there's a couple of ones I've filmed yesterday that I forgot to ask, so I know the audience are going to berate me for it, but people always want to know about books or podcasts, and I think people are always, particularly now, they've got time and they want to read, or there's so much stuff out there, people look for recommendations. Are there any that you have found particularly good, whether it be a book or podcast or both, it doesn't matter, that you think that might be good for a fairly wide audience?
Yeah. So there's a couple, and they do relate to sort of what I do as well. Yep. So I've got one that's Love Money, Money Loves You. It's by Sarah McCrum. And it's a woman that I actually connected with and have had conversations with. But she, because money and behavior and your relationship with money is all behavioral based and values based, and human behavior is an aspect of our technology because we like to understand the blockers and the behaviors and the belief systems around money that might be blocking someone from achieving their life aspirations and their goals, or the way in which they have a relationship with money or manage money. So because I'm transforming an industry into, looking at that aspect and getting advisors to look at the soft skills of how you deal with human behavior as part of a financial advice process. So Sarah has this book, and it's all around the relationship that you have with money and how money is energy, and how you have an energetic relationship with money, what you think and believe and what you have as your patterns is how you actually attract money. So it's actually it's a really good book about, the relationship that you have with money. So if anyone's having challenges with, finances, it's a great book to listen to. The other one that I am listening to at the moment is Economics for the Common Good.
Yep.
I believe that, we have to transform our whole economic policy and economic systems to have more people, planet and profit as measures of our economic system. So that book it's pretty huge. And it goes into the details of that and how we really need to transform our economic systems into, having more measures around, people and planet. Otherwise, we're not going to have a planet to have an economy in. So
yes, that
so
would be...
they're the couple that I'm listening to at the moment, because I listen to books. I haven't read much at the moment, but audiobooks is what I'm into at the moment.
I alternate between the two. I go through periods where I just love audiobooks. I just love them. And then suddenly, for some reason, I don't know, I stop listening. I can't listen to them. I find it's not going in. And then I'll pick a book up and I'll read it and then I'll switch back again. I don't know. Maybe my brain gets tired with one form of, maybe I should try doing both. But yeah, I like audiobooks, I have to say. I think it's a good way. I think some reason it goes in more, I feel. I don't know why.
Yeah, I agree. But that also is your learning style, because we're either auditory, visual or kinesthetic. We have different learning styles. So some people are more auditory and some people need to read. So it just comes down to your learning style.
Well, I'm massively dyslexic, so that makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right. Now, important question, really important question, because this is one of the reasons that we do the show, as you know, is so that we can help you connect with future people that might want to come and work with you. So if there are people out there that are thinking, oh, that sounds like a fascinating business, or I'm a really strong engineer, I want to take that test, I'm going to be the first person to pass it, or whatever they're thinking. Tell me in your own words, why would someone want to come and work at Advice Intelligence?
Yeah, so, I mean, our business is very much around culture, and we've developed, a very startup mentality. Even though we're not a startup, we've evolved past that. But we try to maintain that and be agile and open and collaborative. And so culture's a big thing for us. As the other aspect is everyone that works for Advice Intelligence is passionate about what we're doing, about our higher purpose, about our vision. They're personally aligned to it. Yep. And so if anyone's personally aligned to wanting to transform, financial services industry into something that's going to help people have massive social impact and try and lift the socioeconomic situation of communities, that's what we're trying to do, making financial advice more accessible and more affordable to, the greater Australians. So if anyone's aligned to that purpose, has the experience around, software engineering, even in financial services, in, sales or onboarding and that sort of experience, we're looking for people. So come and knock on Nudge's door or my door.
And just knock. Doesn't matter where you knock. Just let us know somehow.
We are desperate for people. So, we want to grow the business and we're in a position to, grow the business and we want really great people that, they're not there to, come just for a paycheck. They're there because they're personally aligned to what we're trying to achieve. So,
yeah, and that's what we love about working with companies like yours, and that's the whole point. It's not about just getting a job. It's about finding something that you genuinely connect with, and hopefully this exact podcast will help people do that before they come and meet you. So, Jacqui, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so glad I'm sorry it took so long to get you on. We were trying to work out a solution during this lockdown, and it was like this I think has worked really well. It's a shame we didn't get you in the studio, but maybe when you IPO, we'll get you back in the studio or whatever those long-term plans are. Who knows? But thank you so much for coming on. And I'm sure we will continue to talk regularly about your growth.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jacqui.